what is a shoulder in? A shoulder in is a lateral movement that has two components to it. You have bend and you have angle. But first, to understand the bend and the angle is what are we doing with the horse? So what we're doing is we're asking the horse to bring its shoulder off of the rail. So I've come up to the rail here, I've stopped along the rail. Now we're going to use the rail as our reference point and the inside of the arena. So when you hear shoulder in, that means the shoulder goes to the inside and the hind end goes out some. So you can either move the hind end out to get your angle, or you can move your shoulder in. The easiest one is to move the hind end over. So your angle is how much do you bring the shoulder off the rail to the inside, that's why it's called shoulder in, or how much do you bring the hind end out. So for this, I'm just going to ask her to move her hind end out instead of her shoulder in. So the more I bring her hind end to the rail, the more it increases the angle. So that's what I mean by angle, is how much do I take her sideways, but I'm still going down the rail. So now you see her hind end's closer to the arena rail and the shoulders off the rail. So that means the shoulders to the inside. Now the second part of that is bend. Bend is what's going on from the pole to her tail. Does she have a banana shape in her back? And that is to the inside or away from the direction of travel. So we're traveling down the rail this way. I'm going to bend her to the inside. So the angle goes to the inside and then the bend goes to the inside. Or another way to think of the bend is away from the direction of travel. So we're traveling this way and you're going to bend your horse away from that traveling. So if I go walk off here and I'll go just turn around and you can see it as I go away. I'm going to pretend like my rail's here. The hind end's closer to the rail and the shoulder is off the rail. Now I'll just turn and do it down the fence here so you can see it from the front. So as I go down the rail, I ask the hind end to go closer to the rail. That's my angle, and now the bend is bent to the inside or away from the direction of travel. I'm traveling this way, so I'm bent away from the direction of travel. If I was bent in the direction of travel, then it would be a haunches in, and we'll talk about that in a future video. So again, my rail's over here, so I'm shoulder in. The inside of my arena is here. Right now, pretending, because my rail's over here, that means the shoulders to the inside. Now what a lot of people get confused with when they're in a shoulder in position, that this is a shoulder in because the shoulder is open here. That's more of a haunches in because the bend is in the direction of travel. So you want to make sure the horse is bent away from the direction you're going, and now you're asking the angle by bringing the shoulder off the rail or the hind end to the rail. The easier one is to bring the hind end to the rail. So that's the angle. Now if you watch, I want you to see the ideal shoulder in angle is a 3-track. And that means the inside hind is in the same line of travel as my outside front. That would be a 3-track shoulder in. You can go to a 4-track and that's still okay. Some horses that's good. But if you start getting more than a 4-track, and a 4-track means that each foot is on its own path. That's a steeper angle. And if you start going more than that, it's going to be more of a sideways than it is a shoulder in, which a shoulder in has a lifting and suppling effect. So I'm going to walk down here and put her in a 3-track shoulder in. So if you look at each leg, the outside hind is its own track, the outside front and inside hind are its own track, and I'll do the same thing going back down. And then the inside front, that's a 3-track. Now if I increase the angle to there, now it's going to be more of a 4-track. Each foot is going on its own path. And that sometimes it's good for the horse. Some horses, that's what you need to do because they really need that suppling. So I can go the other way and do the other side, same thing. So shoulder in, I bend away from the direction of travel. I ask the hind to step off the track of the front. That gets me the angle. So I come down straight. Now my rail's here. And I ask the hind to go to the rail. My horse is bent away from the direction of travel. So that is your shoulder in. So it's about the bend and the angle. Then we're going to talk more about how to do this in the future, but I just want you here just to know what is a shoulder in. So it's angle and the bend is away from the direction of travel. Why would we use a shoulder in? Shoulder in is a great suppling exercise and strengthening exercise. Guérin, one of the founders of the classical movement, way back in 1733, talks about the shoulder in as being the alpha and the omega in movements. If you don't know any other movement, learn the shoulder in because of all the wonderful benefits you get from just that one movement. Nuno Oliveira talks about it as the aspirin for the horse. He says that, if you've got anything going on with the horse, any problems, or the horse isn't giving you what you want, is get the shoulder in working, develop the shoulder in, and it's going to help so many things. And I would have to agree with that. I've used it on, for years on all kinds of different horses and issues, and it's such a great exercise because of its ability to engage and supple. So if I'm in a shoulder in here, what it does is it takes the inside hind leg and places it up underneath the horse's body. So I'm asking the horse to not only step forward, but to step forward and underneath its body. And what that does is it starts to stretch and supple the hind end. And it starts to stretch and supple the outside of the horse's body. So you're getting bend through the rib cage. And then as they step up and underneath, they're starting to lift more of the horse's back because the horse's hind foot is coming up underneath the center of my weight. So as I'm walking along, if you focus down on that inside hind, this hind foot back here, and how it steps up underneath the horse's body. So what it's doing is it's starting to load that hind foot. This hind foot is stepping up underneath the body. It's not only going forward, but it's slightly crossing over. So it's starting to engage one hip at a time. So I'm getting not only suppling, but I'm getting the horse to start loading the inside hind leg a little bit and engaging that, which creates lift in the horse's back, makes them stronger. It's what gives you the round back. So if they're not stepping up or they're really stiff, the more you play with the shoulder in, the more that's going to help them to supple and to engage. The shoulder in and counter shoulder in, it's the same movement except for you're bending to the outside instead of to the inside. So counter shoulder in is I'd be bringing the shoulders to the outside and the bend to the outside. So if I go down the rail here, I tip her nose to the rail and bring her shoulders off the rail. So it's a shoulder in movement, but the reason why it's called a counter shoulder in is because in reference to the arena. If we were just going down the trail, it'd be a right shoulder in or a left shoulder in because you wouldn't have the rail there to help you out. So my imaginary rail is right here, so I'm in a counter shoulder in there. And I'll talk more about that in the future videos here. So why are we doing this? Again, it's a great suppling and engaging exercise, and you want to make sure you do both sides. And that's why I just went from a shoulder in to a counter shoulder in, and I can really help her supple and get her balanced. Now she's leaning a little bit on my leg, so I just activate my calf a little bit, and if she still wouldn't, so I'll do it again here, I can come in with a little bit of a whip just to touch her a little bit to say, hey, come off of my leg there. The angle was a little too much, so then I allow her to come back a little. Yeah, I like that, that's nice. Just floating along there. So the shoulder in has so many great effects to it. A while back I had a horse in, and this horse was wanting to buck when you went into a canter. So I just did lots of shoulder in work to stretch and supple the horse's back and get him stepping up and engaging that inside hind and just allowing the head and neck to kind of stretch and relax. And I did that for a few days and went into doing the canter, and the canter wasn't nearly as challenging for the horse because the issue of the buck was because she felt so tight, didn't feel like she could actually go into it. So I just used it as a way to supple her body up. And that's just one of many, many uses of the shoulder in. So this is something I want you to go out there and start playing with. In the future videos, I'm going to talk more about how to do this, but for right now I'm just giving you what is a shoulder in and why would you want to use this. So go play with it and let us know what you think, and we'll see you in the next video.